Hello, hello, Greg.
Hello, Mimi. How
And
is you?
I is here.
You is here. I see yous.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Well, we've been trying to catch up, and so I'm grateful that you made some time to sit down with me today.
I am sorry it took a little longer than we thought it would.
That's okay. That's okay.
Oh.
It gave me time to continuously peruse my favorite comic here over and over so that I could be prepared. You know, now that I am on the Discord a little more often, I feel like, oh man, I'm so out of my depth. I gotta like study for the Discord and for the episodes.
The amazing rise of Thumbs Up Gary.
Yes, yes, we have to give a shout out for Thumbs Up Gary. I just told Oscar about it and he hasn't read 6 yet because he likes to do the reread as well.
Uh-huh.
So he's a little OCD that way. And of course, I've been rereading for a while, but like I just showed him the image and I'm like, by the way, this is like now a thing.
Yeah, it's now a thing. I suspect there will be a shirt at some point.
Oh, it'll sell.
It'll be a picture of Gary.
Uh-huh.
And then it'll say something like Gary says, way to go, or something like that.
Well, I mean, it's like, obviously we'll jump into a million things as we normally do, but I can't not jump into 6 because there was just so many lines in there that
all right, shall we say loved. We're now going to talk about Lazarus
We are
Risen,
now
issue
gonna
6.
Yes, we are now going to spoil.
And there will be in the write-up, there will be from minute,
exactly
1 minute 38 to minute 48 and 50 seconds.
Kind of like last time we spoke. It was just this whole and you were actually talking about 6 to me who had not read 6. I was like, tell me more, but at the same time I'm like, no, what am I doing?
I gotta be better about that. But
it's all good.
I was excited it was finally coming out. It was
I know.
a big issue.
But you can also see everyone else is excited. I mean, I again am pretty new to the Discord in terms of every time something has launched, but this response, and maybe it's because absence makes the heart grow fonder thing.
Oh, I think it's that in large part. It's like, the issue that's 10 months late. Finally.
I don't think it was just that. This issue was incredible. And I will say you have like a lot of people that are writing in and saying such, because as you know, in the Discord, I also dropped that I was listening to Ezra Klein and I'm listening along and my husband sends me a go fast forward to minute 52. Boom, here it is, recommended. Spencer Ackerman's like, must read Lazarus. And I was like freaking out. And since then, Spencer and I have a podcast pending. So we've been going back and forth. Name dropping Greg Rucka is always helpful.
I am very excited to hear what you guys are going to talk about. And,
Lazarus. We're going to talk about Lazarus.
Well, I assume some other things too. I don't know if you picked up his book.
I did. Yeah, I'm a quarter of the way through.
It's fantastic.
Yes.
It is, and the timing, frankly, couldn't have been perfect.
Yeah, it's very timely, which is why he's so busy right now, literally on newsreels and presses and all day long. And so it was so.
I think it's going to be in the book recommendations for 7. Actually, I know it already.
Awesome.
I suspect that and the other book, because I've been doing a lot of fiction, I suspect it'll be that and probably Only I Can Fix It. Okay. But I'm between now and then, God knows there will be much to read. But Mr. Ackerman's book, I shouldn't call him Spencer. It's not like I know the guy.
I feel like we know him now because I've been going back and forth on social. Like he's super excited, by the way. He listened to our last episode. So.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
well, then hopefully he will be delighted by like he needs an endorsement from us. But I think the book is phenomenal. I think it is. Yeah, I think it is so astute and frankly, when I read stuff and I go like, oh no, I fell into that assumption too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm old enough now. It's very strange for me to go, yes, I remember 20 years ago, but I mean, I find myself really thinking back.
Yeah,
there had been we're not going to get into Risen yet. Apparently, there was there was a comment made on the server when, the Taliban started really rolling. And and it's, it's one of our longstanding server members who had made the comment that, like, I've never been so embarrassed by my country before, and looking at this, like, trillions of dollars and all the lives. And there's a piece of me that was like, I totally get where you're coming from. But if you're more embarrassed by that than you are by January 6th, maybe we need to readdress the priorities a little bit. It is, and the story of this is going to take a while to be told. I'm not looking at it as a failure on the Biden administration's part. I think of it as it is the logical culmination of exactly what Ackerman's talking about, and 20 years of this behavior. And I mean, we know for a fact that there was misreporting from commanders all along. There was misreporting on it, the intelligence all along, because they weren't being objective about it. The Biden administration, forget Biden administration. If we presume good faith choices, like for whatever the reason behind the choices, like whatever your political ideology behind the choices, presuming that the choice that is made at the executive level is a choice that is made leveraging the best information available at that time, presented to you by the organizations and individuals in those organizations whose job it is to be the smartest people in the room and to present the best information and the most accurate information. All you can do is work on that. If you've got DIA and CIA and everybody saying, this is the situation, the Pentagon is coming in and they're saying, no, they're ready and it'll be fine, right? And then it turns out, well, that it's not, because it isn't, because there has been, if not lying about it, misrepresentation about it, working its way up the chain, then, the seed, the seed of the tree was poison. It is, I mean, it's very sad. And to me, however, it feels grossly inevitable.
Yeah.
And then on top of all of that, and really this is not to discount at all the sacrifice, of all the men and women in uniform over the last 20 years. And it is those individuals more than anybody else on that side of it that I feel for. Never mind how I feel on the Afghan side, right? But talking just about on the American side, I'm not really broken up about all the people who made money off of this. Like the Eric Prince contingent can go fuck themselves, right? I
contractor.
Exactly. They're never going to have any trouble finding more work because the whole situation is built to them. But there is a piece of me that goes, in my list of the top 2 things we need to be dealing with right now, this doesn't make the cut.
Yeah.
There are 2 things right now that we should be screaming about and fighting about. And I'm sorry, but the withdrawal of Afghanistan and the Taliban taking Afghanistan back isn't in those top 2. It isn't. But it's a great distraction. Right? Finally, the GOP's got something they can jump up and down about and point about and say, look. It's like, that doesn't fucking matter, guys. The climate is about to collapse entirely. Like it's literally over.
Yeah. The last report was like, so we're after 30 years, that's done. There's no going back.
Yeah.
And now you're looking at after that point are the little incremental changes that can be made. I go, well, they didn't care enough for the 30 years that we would be here. Why would they care about that? So
exactly.
that last report was really depressing. Like, I was like, oh my God.
This is easier. I mean, you don't have to do anything with regards to, if you want to be upset about Afghanistan, all you got to do is shout. Right? You don't have to look at how you're living. You don't have to reevaluate where you drive. You don't have to worry about, you know, your diet. You don't have to worry about what you're drinking, what your clothes you're wearing. You don't have to worry about any of that. It's easy. You can point at Afghanistan and go, look over there, as opposed to being like, oh, Jesus Christ, we got to do, I mean, this is a right now problem. And the one thing I will say that pisses me off enormously is that Biden gets on, he does a national press conference about Afghanistan. You should have done a goddamn national press conference the day that UN report came out. There should have been an immediate, this is no longer optional. This is now an extinction event, guys.
Yeah.
Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters if we're all going to be gone, right? I mean, it's literally like.
So Ackerman also recommended a book on there as well that wasn't Lazarus. It was like Americans. I'm going to get it wrong, but Oscar read it. He's like, don't read this because you're going to be depressed. Because basically it was like 2072 and Florida's underwater, and you know. And I was like, well, that's gonna be before that. I think I was like, we're done for. I mean, I hate always being the negative,
but we're not. That's the thing. We can stop this.
Yeah,
we absolutely can stop this. Like, we have the science, we have the brain power. If we are alone in the universe, if we truly are unique in the universe, right, we're the first time that life has been able to achieve self-awareness, right, then our capacity to solve this problem is as limitless as our capacity as human beings. We can do it. We absolutely can do it. You know, it's gonna hurt. But you know what, this country is, and again, the ideology in this nation has been so destroyed and eroded. There were people during the Second World War who did not want to ration. Yes, there was a thriving black market in the US. Never mind talking about what it was like in Europe, all right? But it was a thing where it was done. It was necessary. People worked swing shifts building the ships and the planes, and they went without sugar, and they had ration cards, and they only drove on X days, and they had to ration gasoline. This is not an impossible task. It is an alien task now to an American mentality, or to a large portion of an American mentality that has been spoon-fed for 50 years now, their entitlement.
Yeah, well, why would they don't want to be uncomfortable? I mean,
no, exactly.
Why should they have to suffer?
Yeah, I shouldn't have to sacrifice anything.
Right.
But that spirit existed, and can be reawakened. And you know, I mean, what's the option? You're going to be defeatist about it or not? And if you're going to be defeatist about it, well, then, you know, then get off the train now. But otherwise, you know, this is a thing. We start working on it, we can fix it. We really can fix it. But every day we don't, it gets harder.
Yeah.
Every single day we don't.
Sinking further and further. Literally, Florida keeps sinking further and further down. Like, and I can feel that. But it's interesting because this totally ties into the back matter, which is like although of course I love Lazarus, like one of my favorite parts is reading what you write. And you wrote something like, how much longer can the status continue to quo? And this
Quo,
is
yeah.
just, uh, so
Yeah.
obviously one being the climate, and then two, you had said the two things that we need to be worried about right now.
I think the other thing is absolutely, I don't see how anybody can, in any sense of a good conscience, look at what is being done to suppress the votes nationwide and view that as anything other than an extension of the coup attempt. So, the second thing absolutely is, and it all ties together. There has to be a line drawn about the assault on this country, and either we commit to civil war now and just say, fine, you guys can have this area, off you go, and here's an 8-month amnesty and everybody is free to move, and we'll reallocate and so on, or this thing goes hot, because it is so patently absurd that in a nation that purports to be, of the people, by the people, for the people, there is one such extraordinary contortion going on to prevent the people from voting.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other hand, such extraordinary contortions being made to allow those people literally threatening the country to continue. And we had a fucking gunfight in downtown Portland on Sunday because the Proud Boys came to town again. And the cops were like, well, we're not going to get involved. And it's like, you know what? Then what the hell good are you? I mean, literally, when one of the best ACAB arguments is that the police what they're protecting and serving is property and wealth. They are not interested in protecting individuals or keeping them safe. And you can unpack that as far as you want. You can say, their job is to come home safe at the end of the day, and so on and so forth. But at a certain point, then there's got to be a decision about what the police actually should do.
Yeah.
We've got, this is insane. They came to town with weapons, right? Oh, well, they're airsoft guns. We're firing paintballs and so on, except the rounds that were exchanged downtown, those were live rounds. Right? These people, are looking for a fight. And cops sure as hell aren't protecting the anti-fascists. They're not protecting the people who are like, this is wrong and you guys are wrong. If you are sitting there and going, you know what, the Proud Boys have a point, you are definitionally not American.
Yeah, I mean,
you're definitionally not. You are saying that I do not agree with the principles on which this country is founded.
Yeah, and I don't ever see why that doesn't get categorized as terrorism.
It is terrorism. It absolutely is. And
but then it never gets
right. So there was a terrorist act this weekend in Portland.
Mm-hmm.
And and while I do actually believe that federal law enforcement and federal intelligence are actually addressing the issue of white nationalist terrorism, that's exactly what this was. This is the exact same thing as ISIS rolling through downtown Damascus waving flags. This was a you're with us or you're against us, and if you're against us, we want you dead. We will kill you. It's like, that's not discourse, guys. That's a declaration of war. So it either needs to be answered or we're going to be swept away in it. And like I said, these are these two things to me are intrinsically linked. You are not going to be able to get a spirit that says we can solve this problem if you've got a portion of the population now booing Trump when he says you should get vaccinated. Right? I mean, they're fucking crazy.
Yes.
You know, when you posted that article basically saying, hey, water rationing in Orlando because of COVID.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, you know, Mississippians are there's a run on deworming medication for cows because it'll quote unquote cure COVID. I mean, it's literally the very, very, very bitter humor of this is, well, you know, it's a problem that solves itself.
But it's not. That's the problem. It's not solving itself because they're but the problem is they're taking others collateral. Yeah, there's too much collateral damage that it's not fair.
Yeah, it is a problem that solves itself. It is also a problem
with consequences
that does not have the courtesy to stay within its bubble.
Exactly. Like that would be another thing. And I'm so past that. Like my moral and ethical compass of that has totally shifted because I'm living in a state and in a city where literally we got a water warning because the oxygen levels are being used. So the oxygen that's used for the hospitals are the same that's used to treat water. I was like, are you kidding? Because we have a lot of huge hospitals here in this city, in this county. Like we've got all the big trauma centers. Like it's just, there's so many. So that I couldn't believe I saw that. I'm like, oh my gosh, is this in Lazarus or am I reading from like Hawk territory? What's happening? Yeah. It just feels like a dystopian future. Like, is this for real? And the problem is the angering part is it could have been prevented. Yes. Right? All of this could have been prevented. And that's where you just get so angry at what's happening. And you know, all of the things you discuss, there's so much to unpack there. And we obviously don't have 8 hours to do it, but you know, we'll talk again. So, but
this is,
it's an ongoing Mimi and Greg conversation.
It's not like we ever run out of things to be incensed about.
Our listeners are so awesome because they're like, oh, it's so great. The Mimi and Greg show is back. I'm like, well, you know what you're going to get, right?
Yeah. Well, I imagine that it might be for some people somewhat cathartic to hear other people being passionately angry about stuff, you know. Yeah.
We're very passionate, that's for sure.
It's my brand.
Yeah, but it's the Rucka rant, you know. It's
what's his brand, Fury. You know? Fury.
Well, I mean, and to give a proper shout out to Spencer Eckerman's book, it's of course Reign of Terror, and I'll post that here and everything. But like, it's really interesting because he read Risen 6 already and was like, oh my gosh, that issue, I can't. I would love to talk to Greg about it. I'm like, well, you know, we can make that happen like every other week or so, you know. Yeah. I speak to this gentleman named Mr. Greg Rucka, and we can certainly facilitate that. But another thing that I found really, and maybe I don't do this with every issue, and I feel like I should go back and do that, but I really thought there was just so many quotable quotes in this. And so, and it ties into some really
good lines.
Oh,
there's some good lines.
So one I loved, which will kind of like take us down from the whole Afghanistan and voter suppression talk.
Here we go. We're 15 minutes in, but now we can talk about the issue.
We do not reinforce outdated and reductive stereotypes in the Carlisle domain, Stephen.
Yes.
I'm like, that is just right out of any one of my favorite TV shows, which we all share and love. I thought that was brilliant.
I like that Joe and Stephen are interacting as siblings in that.
Yes.
Like that is very much, are you asking me, you know, because you want my opinion, you're asking me as a gay man.
Yes, which is like, oh, you know, I'm trying to get a gift. And
yeah.
I thought that was really brilliant.
And I do like your explanation being like, look, the last time I had to buy a present, you know, it was easy. It was a ball of cocaine and an orgy with a bunch of people from the Post for Jonah. I don't think that's going to fly for Coppola's daughter. So,
right.
You know.
It was just because typically, you know, Lazarus is not a comedy, I would say, but there are some great moments that just give you that reprieve at the time that it's just, you know, in the time I'm in reality wise, but also in the in the reading too. And so, and it was just like you said, the banter was just so much fun, and you got to see them as siblings versus head of the family and
Well,
guy who is sent
you get
away
an
as non-head of the
idea
family.
of how the relationship has changed and evolved, and I like that.
Yes.
And it was, you know, I mean, there are a lot of people in this cast, so trying to track them and give them their moments. You know, I mean, we haven't seen Sonia in forever, and we're not going to see Sonia in 7. You know, Sonia is not going to really show up until 8. You know, there's just, you know, we haven't seen Arthur Cohn in, God, I don't know how many issues now. I mean, I think the last time we saw him, maybe he was in a briefing room, you know. And that makes a certain amount of sense, because Arthur would be somewhat marginalized as Joe becomes more and more head of family, because Arthur was effectively Malcolm's chief of staff, to use a bad West Wing analogy, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm particularly fond of Abigail's first line to Malcolm, you know, which is, how does it taste? You know, your liver. I mean,
Yes. Yes.
I
mean, I'm just fascinated with Abigail, period. Like,
she's fun.
Yes.
She is fun.
And it's like the first appearances and everything, but like, you know, you're just getting so much of who she is from the very little that were the pages, right? So it's amazing that in just so few pages, you just feel like this connectivity already. And of course, because there's story building around her too. But yes, everyone's super psyched to hear and learn more about her dynamic and how this all fits in. But another line that I loved that was a little bit heavier, and probably because we are literally surrounded by it every day and it's constant, but was one of the things death gives us is purpose. It demands to know what we've done with our lives, who we've been. And I just was like, wow, this is super deep, Greg. And also so relevant, because death is like a daily thing. And we're just looking at these COVID numbers, for example, or even what's going on overseas. And you just starting to get statistics and numbers, and it becomes a number until you know someone, or until it hits closer to home. And then you remember these are all human lives and people. And it's just like us thinking about who we are and like, you know, what we want to do with each day and everything. And I was like, oh, I was getting super like deep into this one. It took me to some places.
Well, I mean, it is a stance that arises in particular for me in these narratives that have been examining longevity and immortality. What does it mean if death is no longer a presence in your life? What does it mean if you're not looking at an eventual end of the road? You know, what does it mean if your road will go on forever, or has the potential of going on forever? And I think that there is a romantic conceit, and, you know, I have one very good friend who would argue passionately they would love to be immortal. You know, that, and they wouldn't have a problem with it. They wouldn't have a problem with aging past everybody and everybody dying around them, because they would be able to deal with it, that trade-off. And I'm not sure I could. And maybe it's, you know, and I'm still, this is an active, I don't want to say argument, but I guess an active interrogation that I have been engaged with for a while now. And I do think that for those who have had longevity, for some of them, like Malcolm's use of longevity was entirely purpose-built. And it will become clear in 7 as to precisely the nature of that purpose. He wanted it. for a very specific reason, and not for the Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, billion tech bro billionaire. I'm gonna go and live forever in New Zealand and then on Mars. Sons of bitches. Malcolm has, again, a portion of 7 is about this because it's the continuation of the discussion. It is what Malcolm set out to do and why he's doing it. But for people like Beth, for people like James, for people like Marisol, and for Jonah, and not for Johanna, because Johanna, like Malcolm, had a goal in mind throughout, right? There was a thing that she was chasing. Beth says, what have I been doing? I've been trying to be my mom, for 40 years, effectively 35 years. And what that is asked of her is to kill how many proto-forevers, how many viable forevers, and I am, Bethany has always been a hard character. Like if you've done a reread, you go back and it's really not until these last 3 issues where you have started to go, oh, maybe there's a reason she's this.
Exactly. Yes.
And now
just think she's cold and horrible.
Right. And in many ways, she is horribly tragic
and traumatized.
Yeah. But as and this came up on the Discord, one of the emergent themes of the series is abuse, and surviving abuse, and the effects of abuse on both the abuser and the survivor. And Bethany's story is a tragic story, and for her, one of the things I think you get in that scene is that she's not afraid of death. Right, she can accept it. One has to ask how James feels about this particular revelation, right? But you can argue that a lot of Jonah's pathology before he no longer is Jonah Carlyle is based on, and I'm not, this is certainly not to say, oh, poor Jonah, but it is to say, this is the result of entitlement and privilege and an existential meaninglessness. There is no purpose to your life, and everything you want, everything you need, everything you desire is provided for you. You don't have to work for a damn thing, kid. You don't have to do anything. You literally do nothing but exist day to day. And the only difference between yesterday and tomorrow is going to be what you eat, who you sleep with. That would be I think a terribly destructive existence. And then to have that existence and be told, but no, it won't end. It won't end. We're going to keep you going.
Yeah.
It is something that, like I say, and you see it in the old guard as well. We need a purpose, and it doesn't have to be a grand purpose, right? But on some level, we all go through our days with the awareness that, and they talked about this in The Good Place as well, right? We go through our days with an awareness that there's an end of the days, and this is why hoary Hallmark card chestnuts like live every day like it's your last, because it may be, is true.
Right.
I mean, it's absolutely true. It may well be your last. And do you want this to be your last day? But the problem is, it's almost impossible to function that way.
Right.
Like,
Well, you
literally,
can't
are you
stay
gonna?
at that level.
Right. I mean, yeah, how do you maintain that level of energy? Right. I'm
Yes.
waking up like today's my last day. It's like, okay, so I mean, what? I'm going to be depressed all day, and
Or just go like crazy and go all over the country.
exactly, yeah. or just I'm just going to eat only the things that I want, regardless of whether or not they're good for me.
Right.
I'm gonna, we can't do that.
Right.
However, there's a fundamental truth at play. So
yeah, well, the thing that's interesting about that, because obviously, as brilliant as you are, you're not the first person to point out that death gives us purpose, but it's kind of like what Oscar and I talk about with coaching, right? Because we're coaches, we teach, and there's several on our staff, and we'll say, hey, that kid's not listening, and someone will say something and then they'll focus. I'm like, I just said that exact thing. Why didn't that work? And it's because certain things resonate at certain points in your life, but also it's just the way it's written, the way it's read, the narrative you're getting. And like that, for some reason, really resonated with me, because it's not really something I share all the time, but I have a thing with death. Like, it's something I think about. It's something I therapy about. It's I fear for death of those I love around me. And it weighs on me. Right. And so it really helps to just push that narrative to, no, it's a good thing because it gives me the purpose. And I know this sounds so, I don't know if cliche is the word, but I say it all the time, but your Lazarus and your back matter to Lazarus has literally changed my life and the direction of the things I do, and has given me so much purpose of things that I do now. Like, I'm writing a bill with legislation for education because of the activism that this book kind of started me with, which was signing little petitions and being more active. So it's just interesting what reading and what connectivity and all of those things can do for people. And I know that people listening are like, dude, it's just a comic book, calm down. But I also think it's one of the most, like, not nearly highly acclaimed or underrated or like out there enough books. Like, I need everyone to read it so they know what I'm talking about.
Well, I mean, not everybody needs to read it.
Just most everybody.
Look, I will. I mean, come on, that's, it's wonderful to hear. And of course it's wonderful to hear. It puts me in mind, it's funny, we're orbiting back to this. When 9/11 happened, I was working on Batman Huntress Cry for Blood with Rick Burchett. And I was writing the scripts, and I was probably about halfway through it. And Rick was drawing. And I remember we hadn't been in Portland terribly long, because I was still trying to write the way I had written when we were living in Eugene, which was sometimes I was writing in an office at home, but mostly I had found a coffee shop that I could go to in the morning, so I could leave the house and go to this coffee place and sit there and work for several hours and then go home. And we I mean, we'd been in Portland, I guess, a little over 2-3 years at that point, and I was still trying to find a coffee shop. And I remember having a call with Rick, and we were talking about the merit of what we were doing in the face of everything that was going on in the world, right? And it was triggered very specifically by 9/11.
Yeah.
And it is, in its own way, a question that the guy who I credit most for turning me into a writer, Professor Frank Burgon, had asked very early on in classwork with him back at Vassar, which was, why write? And of course, everybody answer to that was, oh, I feel as they say, or I want to get these, I got to get these things out. And, you know, I mean, you get 13 college seniors all talking like their shit doesn't stink about their writing. And, you know, and he sat there very patiently and nodded and nodded and nodded and then said, right, okay, why should I read it then? Like everything everybody was saying was, well, it's about me. Mm-hmm. And it's not. I mean, if you're going to have, and it is an arrogance, right, that I am going to write a thing that other people should read, I am presuming inherently in that contract that what I have to say is worth your time. So why, right? It becomes incumbent then to go, well, why do I believe that? What is it that I'm trying to say? And I have, throughout my career, believed that you need to, and not everybody is, obviously, but writers, creators, artists need to be responsible for their art. And that art for the sake of art is a cop-out, and it's a great cheat. And it is a lovely way to say, no, we create drama just for the experience of drama. Okay, but if your drama is in no way reflective of the larger world, if you are not commenting on it or making an observation, then it's meaningless. It's just pushing buttons and trying to elicit responses, as emotionally honest as those responses may be. There's got to be more. So, you know, the moments of my career that I can take pride in are the moments when I feel that I have put something into the world that has helped other people in some way. And I've talked about this before too. I think we've talked about it on the podcast, but you know, it's back when there were shows, it's a very rare show where I'm not sitting behind a table and somebody doesn't come up to me and put Batwoman in front of me or put Gotham Central in front of me and say, you know, this helped me. I needed this. I never saw myself on the page before. And that was, you know, I mean, that if there is no merit to the Old Guard movie whatsoever, other than knowing that there are some young Black girls who's got to see themselves on screen being badass and heroic in a way that they hadn't. You know, if you know, I've gotten, you know, I got some correspondence from people, a guy in Libya who was just effusive for Joe, saying, I can't live like that. It's not safe for me.
Yeah.
To be able to see that meant the world to me. One of the things, and and I'd argue about this too, and you probably saw this on the Discord too, right? Which is, if I was in charge of entertainment right now, the first thing I would do would be like, we are making a Superman movie. It will be a good Superman movie about a good Superman.
Yes. Yes.
It will not have Superman breaking anybody's neck. It will not have Superman beating a Batman. It will not have any whining in it. The bad guys will be bad and Superman will be super.
Right.
Right? Because we need that.
Yes.
And we want it.
Which is kind of why Superman came about.
Got it. And we're crazy. Well, it's why Ted Lasso's a hit.
Right.
It is absolutely why Ted Lasso is a hit.
We
Ted Lasso is absolutely answering a need right now, which is, holy shit, we can be nice to each other and be good people and get through our problems. And one of the complexities, and now we're going to digress into this, second season is going, yes, and it isn't always easy. Right? That trying to live that way brings about its own challenges, but they too are addressable.
Yeah.
And I like that they seem to be building an argument. Right? So that's one. We'd have a Superman movie. The others, I'd be doing a PI show. Like
Of course you would.
this year is the year for Stumptown, but more than ever. Because
Yeah.
this year is the year for Stumptown without going, and we're going to cast, and this is no offense to Michael Healy. You don't need, Hoffman should never have been a regular character. The cops should never have been a regular character. It's not a cop show. It's a PI show.
Mm-hmm.
Because you do PI shows when you do not rely on the cops,
Right.
when the cops are their own problem, which they are. And I'm not saying that indicts all of them. I'm not saying we got to get rid of all of them, though my feelings on policing reform is exception. We can spend an hour on that.
Right. Next
right?
episode.
But in terms of entertainment, me, we want to see somebody who is doing the right thing on that level, but is not part of an apparatus that we don't have faith in.
Yeah. Yeah.
That the faith
That's
is
broken.
broken. Exactly.
Yeah.
They broke faith. They broke faith. And then I have no better example of them breaking faith than what happened here on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
The police literally saying, we're not going to get involved. It's like, well, what does it take? At what point do you get involved? Well, the honest answer is after you're dead. That's when we get involved. We get involved not to protect you. We get involved when it's safe for us.
And that's the frustrating part, because of course it's not every officer is like this. It's not every whatever, but then when
it's
you're
a culture and it's the
at
force.
the end of the rough end of it, and you're always getting left behind, you're always getting shot. It's how do you expect people to feel when it's constant, right?
There was a, and now I'm going to see if I can find it, and I probably won't, and I'll have to dig it up, and then I'll reach out to you about it. There was a radio lab last year, and I believe it was last year. It was during the pandemic, and it was about effectively what policing is and how it works, and how the protect and serve part of it actually isn't there. It's a slogan, but there's no legal obligation to do it, and that cops join wanting to protect and serve. And if you were to ask them, why are you doing the job? They would say, I am here to protect and serve. But there's nothing in the job that actually says that's what you're supposed to do. All right. And I will try to find it. It was fascinating and also more than a little depressing.
Yeah. Well, like most things these days, it's fascinating, but also wildly depressing, which is why we need entertaining as well. Right. So, I mean,
and hopefully a little uplifting, right?
Very uplifting. This is why we all need Ted Lasso in our lives. And like over pandemic, we finished Schitt's Creek, and, we just need, everyone's recommending shows to me. I'm like, okay, just hold up. Is it depressing? Easy. Is it sad? Because even though I wanted to read Spencer's book, and I'm like, okay, I have to do it in the daytime. I don't want to do it right before I sleep because I'm gonna be angry all night. Like there's certain things.
I do at night before going to sleep is I watch YouTube.
Antique. Oh, your YouTube.
Well, Antique Roadshow. I love Kurska Scott. Antiques Roadshow is in between seasons right now. So.
Okay.
Jen and I have been watching a lot of these the restoration videos. I don't know if you've seen these, where you never really see the people doing it, but what you'll see is here is a 90-year-old vice, right? That's just decrepit and covered in rust. And they're all out of Europe. They're like in Switzerland or Germany or France. And you'll just watch these hands working on the restoration.
Okay.
And so it's this very Zen therapy thing.
Okay.
And it's very, very calming. If you find the right ones. There's somewhere it's, it's a little too flash, but most of them are pretty mellow. And I watch, I'm devoted to PBS Digital Studios Space Time.
Okay.
Which is physics, and
we know how much you love science.
And I watch
science is real.
Yes. Well, and I watch these things and I get maybe a fifth of what's being talked about at any given time. But I have this desperate belief that if I just keep watching them over and over and over again, it'll be like listening
osmosis.
To or it'll be like, watching TV in French, for
and you can understand all of a sudden.
Eventually I'll get it. Eventually I am picking up the concepts, and it's working.
It's working
a little bit at a time. I know now just enough to get things absolutely wrong and to be really dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. Which is like language too, just enough to just completely
to say the absolutely wrong thing.
Yes, to say the wrong thing. Makes sense. Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, I wonder if we have time. We have one question from a Patreon person, and I gotta support my Patreons because they're supporting me. So I did want to ask. They're like, next time you talk to Greg, that's right. So Richard would like to know, and I don't know if we have time for it, how long this goes, because Greg, but he said, I would love to get his take on the recent surge of comics people moving to Substack.
Yeah. I think that Substack has a lot of money to throw around, and there are a lot of people who are happy to take it. I know there are a fair number of creators who have moved that way. I saw the announcements. I'm not going to throw stones at creators trying to make a living doing what they're doing. Mm-hmm. The Substack concept is it is leveraging a pre-existing fan base. It's not growing it.
Yeah, and now I had to kind of look it up because I had heard about it, but I didn't remember. So they're kind of like paid newsletters, right?
Yeah, new talent is not going to be invited to do a Substack. Mm-hmm. You are not going to meet much, if anything, new on a Substack. You are going to subscribe to X's Substack because it's going to be X and you know what you're getting, and X is no longer going to be tweeting on social media. Now you're only going to get their witty bon mots in their Substack. Mm-hmm. And at a premium level, you can actually respond to them. And to me, that I see why creators would want to monetize that. It strikes me as problematic. It also makes me wonder, honestly, comics aren't fast. Mm-hmm. Good comics in particular are not fast. It is very hard. There's a reason these books come out monthly in the main from the big two. They would love to get them out weekly.
Right.
I mean, they really would, because they'd love you to be buying them that quickly.
Yes.
But you can't do it. So I'm going to do a Substack, and you're going to get my comic only through this. It's going to be in a digital format. I presume there will be a link. You can download the PDF or whatnot, except the rules of Substack aren't going to allow you to distribute it. So it's got to be in some DRM'd form. Mm-hmm. I don't have a lot of faith in it. I suppose that's my answer. Now, I could be totally wrong. I mean, it may turn out to be the next great big thing. Mm-hmm. But it strikes me somewhat like NFTs. It strikes me as a fad that is not going to maintain. Because, if I am going to, and I don't know what their agreement is, right? So if I'm going to do I'm going to create stuff for Substack. Did they get the rights, or am I keeping my rights? I am going to put that out how often? Monthly? Mm-hmm. Right. Well, if I have to write to that deadline, that's me writing to this deadline in a closed market, right? It's not going to, apparently I can't share my Substack with you, Mimi. So if I go, this was great, I really like this story by Y, I would love to send it to you, but I can't.
Mm-hmm.
You have to pay X amount to access it. And then there's the additional of, okay, I'm not sure that those creators who are going to be, I am a little suspicious of the creators who have jumped on that bandwagon and their commitment to it versus, say, their commitment to, publishing their own material through Image or Oni or whatnot. But I say all of this, take this with as much salt as you want, because I say this as 51-year-old guy who is at a point in their career where I am actually able to make some choices, arguably very foolish ones, that are hurting me, i.e., look, our numbers are down on certain books, and they're down on these books because I'm not in social media promoting them. I'm not. And I won't go and do it. I will not go on Twitter, and I sure as fuck won't go on Facebook. All right? I won't do it. Well, our numbers on Lazarus have suffered. I know the numbers on Compass have suffered. I know that if I was out there beating the drum on Compass, our numbers on Compass would be better. I think Compass is excellent.
Yes. Speaking of which,
I obviously would not have wanted to see the book made and put my name behind it if I did not think it was excellent.
Yes.
But our numbers are not great on the book, and they're not great because, as far as people are concerned, the comic by people they don't know. Why should they pick it up?
Yeah. It's really weird you brought that up, because I was just about to bring it up, because I was like, oh, I've been meaning to get around to Compass, and I love that I told Oscar, Greg Rucka presents. I DM'd Robert, and I was like, Greg Rucka presents Compass. I showed Oscar, and I was like, because it's right up my alley of the stuff that I love and adore. And so I told Robert that I was gonna definitely get started. It's just, I can audiobook all day while I'm food prepping and everything.
Right,
my comic intake, read. I have to sit down, and it's just everything's so much slower. But I was really excited to get started on that. So I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah, I would urge you to have Robert and Walker on prior to the trade coming out. Okay. Because I think the trade is going to be where it finds its audience.
Okay.
Because it will be the complete story, and it's going to be, an $11.99 trade or a $10.99 or a $9.99 trade. It's not going to be expensive.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I love that it said a word of welcome, and it starts off with you basically saying, I hate social media. Yeah. Like, because I was like, oh, word of welcome, and I didn't read who it was from, and then it was like one line in, I'm like, this is from Greg.
Yeah, it's Greg. Yeah. No, but okay, but to wrap it all the way back around to right. I'm sorry, you said it was Richard's question?
Richard's question. Yes.
To Richard's question. So, like I say, I don't know how viable it is. Mm-hmm. And I am not certain how successful it will be. I have wondered if I should do a newsletter myself. If I did a newsletter, I certainly wouldn't charge for it. I mean, that just seems, I don't think that highly of myself. I don't think people should pay for the privilege of getting an email from me once a month or once a week that says, this is what's going on, this is what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And if I were to charge for it, I would want to make it worth that, mm-hmm. which means I would need to put the time and effort into it, mm-hmm. which means I would not be putting that time and effort into the other things that I am trying to do.
Exactly.
So look, I'm not gonna throw stones at anybody jumping on that bandwagon. If a company rolls up and says, here's $100,000, will you do a comic for us? that might very well be a great incentive to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not in love with it. I think I think it is trying to figure out the way to phrase this. There is a democratization of in comics. All right, at least you can go to a comic book store and in theory order anything you want. You can get whatever books you want, and you're not being told you can't have this, right? They may not carry it, they may not stock it, but you can. You have ways to acquire the material.
Yes.
And in a world of some amazing webcomics and the like, to then turn around and say, oh, this is subscription only, it's like, well, then it better be really worth that subscription. It seems very end stage capitalism to me. Okay. It seems very much somebody going, here's a way to get people to pay more for something that they were already paying for over here. And the exclusivity,
right, that whole it's exclusive and
is I think
it's a little fallacious. And it's a little counter of the comics culture.
Well, and it's fallacious, right? I mean, so I'm gonna do 120 pages worth of comic via Substack, and then what? Substack's not gonna want to trade it up and sell it. I'm not going to want to trade it up and sell it. That's it. It only exists within this format. Why would you do that? I don't. So there are, as is evidence, there's a whole bunch about it I do not know and do not understand.
Right. But that's because you don't really want to explore that.
Yeah. It ain't my thing, man. Yeah. It ain't my thing. I got, my thing right now is trying to we got 3 new books rolling and getting Lazarus going, 7's got to get done, and, Black Magic, and there's another Old Guard story coming, because Tales Through Time is the last issue is going to press this week.
Okay.
There will be this, by the time this comes out, there will have been a TOG 2 announcement. We will have had some sort of official announcement.
There it goes.
So, and
that's what everyone's been waiting for, the official announcement of the Old Guard 2 film. It
is finally coming. My understanding it'll be later this week.
Exciting.
And I'm working on another movie potentially. Yeah. So I like it. I personally can't conceive of going to my fan base, however large or small it is, and saying, so give me $1 and I'll send you an email.
Yes. Because I understand.
I don't imagine
the same way. Like,
I can't imagine.
Why would anybody want this?
I can't imagine anybody loves me so much they'd be willing to pay.
Well, that's not true.
No, seriously.
I think that is.
But
I get what you're saying.
But Mimi, you're already you spend your money on the comic.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. You
point.
Get it. Yeah. That's the transaction. It makes sense to me.
Yes.
I got no problem with that. So happy. Anyway.
All right. So on that Greg note, will not be on Substack, FYI, if in case anyone was wondering. But you can continue. At least
not so far.
You can continue getting all of.
I'm on Discord.
All of his stuff. He's on Discord, which is
Discord.
Free, and he's on there a lot. Yeah. And he's on the podcast.
Yes.
Mimi and Greg
there
show.
You go. You got me on Culture Chat with me. You got me on Discord. I am easy enough to find. So
yes. Yes, 100%.
And I think people have discovered on the Discord in the main, I answer their questions. I don't have a problem with that. So
yes, you definitely don't hold back, but that's not your style.
It's not. Well, that makes it sound like the Discord's a boxing ring.
No,
It's not,
no. What I mean
it's
is like you're very generous with your answers and your time
well,
of like typing it all out. And
Cara asked about Thumbs Up Gary.
yes,
what was
there it goes.
Was that Michael or was that?
Yes.
I was like, no, that's the panel description. I can find it if you
Yeah.
want. I mean, it's literally was Hawk Soldier leans in, gives thumbs up.
Yeah.
We're set. I'm running away now.
And it's perfect. It's just it's perfect. That is what we need right now.
Well, it was quite literally like we're singing a song about Frankenstein and in she walked.
Yeah.
And it was like that was the without doubt the worst day ever for those people.
Yes, I was thinking that too. I'm like, can you imagine the room? Just the zzz, the record scratch, everything. Just my god,
that really was. That really
like,
was it.
Literally, yeah, like literally in walks.
Speak of the devil.
Speak of the devil. Yeah.
Yeah. So
amazing. Well, we're excited.
And I do love, just as to bring it back, this will be the last thing to say about the issue. I do love after everybody's cleared out and Forever sits down and takes off the helmet, the sigh.
Yeah.
It's like, just sigh.
Yes. That issue, let me tell you, it wasn't just the absence thing. Like it was gold. Like we are all loving it, and the rereads have been.
Can I tell you one other thing I really love, and I haven't seen anybody talk about this. I love the way Michael did the difference in the Hawk technology. That her interaction with Hawk initially is he's entirely this 2D thing.
Yes.
There's none of that 3D projection. It's like an old school,
like a projector. Projector.
That somehow
and they had to like wheel it out and everything.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's somehow doing this live transmission. And I love the way Michael drew, Forever in depth. Forever has depth. And a Hawk doesn't, right? He's just moving along this plane.
Yes.
And I was really tickled by that. I really, really dug it. I thought that was cool. So
yes. Well, I'm gonna harass him to maybe come on and do the three of us talking Lazarus stuff. And,
absolutely should.
Like, make him like shake up his ideas and talk to us.
He is. You think I get cranky. He is.
Oh, I remember. I've had him on the show.
Yeah. So.
And he was like, yeah, well, Greg, he'll go off on things. I'm like, Michael, you're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, I did do it. Yeah, I don't. There's a reason why we work well.
Exactly. That's why he always says, ask Greg why I'm the best collaborator. Why I'm such a great collaborator. I'm like, okay. So yes, we have so many different people to talk to, but the good news is we never run out of things, as you say. No. And I always appreciate your time. I know we built this amazing friendship and rapport, but I still do know you're very busy. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it. I'm glad we got to do this.
Yes. All right.
And we'll do it again. Give it another 2 weeks or so.
Another couple of weeks. Yep. Until next time.
Greg Rucka,
Rucka,
cheers.
Everyone.
Take care.
That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening to the Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Please subscribe and rate my podcast on your platform of choice and leave a review. You can become a patron of the show at patreon.com/SifuMimiChan to help keep this podcast going. Follow me and interact on social media at Sifu Mimi Chan on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook.